My name is John Luke. I am a pediatrician at the Dell Children's Medical Center in Austin. I also serve as a faculty member for the University of Texas Southwestern. I oversee the regional campus for the University of Texas Medical Branch.
My name is Barbara Jones, and I'm an associate professor at the School of Social Work at UT Austin. I'm also the assistant dean for health affairs. So we're going to talk today about our Transformative Teams course, which we created a few years ago, largely because we've been working together in collaboration, thinking through interprofessional education for students. And both of us, I believe, held the strong opinion that we could maybe teach students of different disciplines how to talk to each other while they're still in their training programs before they get to the bedside. So that was really the large motivation of, can we actually help students understand each other, understand each other's disciplines, and therefore create better teams in the future. We came up with that title intentionally to call it Transformative Teams because we do believe that interprofessional education and collaboration can transform healthcare.
The class that we took, Transformative Teams, was an elective that was offered to us by one of our professors. It was described as a course that would allow us to interact with other healthcare professionals, and we would learn how to work as a team with one goal, being the patient would be the center of the care.
And like Shane said, working with other professionals was kind of what caught my attention. In my military background, I've worked in the past in a charge nurse role, working with other professions, and taking this course now as a CNS, as an advanced practice nurse, allowed me to kind of build on the knowledge that I already had previously, again, focusing on the one goal of being the patient care itself.
You know, we spent about a year planning the course, and we told them that we had been working together, looking at very few models that were out there, but building on our own practice experience to say what do we think folks need to know how to communicate and talk to each other. And we were very explicit about that, and we were explicit about the power dynamics in healthcare. You know, we started with medicine and social work, which are two disciplines that may or may not have as much interaction as they probably should, and probably have some misunderstanding about each other. And in fact, as part of the course, we even brought out the misconceptions they might have about each other. We had a whole exercise where we actually asked them to talk about stereotypes of each other's professions and then to debunk those. And we were very intentional about addressing power and stereotypes and communication throughout the course.
I remember there was one session, you might recall this, Barbara, where students started talking to each other, and then one student said, "I really don't understand the ethics of your profession.
Right.
What drives you to do the things that you do?" And Barbara and I looked at each other and go, another session. And so out of that, the students really fed forward how we were able to plan this, to the point where they helped us create additional experiences that were very transformative for them too.
So the next session, we charged them to bring in their code of ethics from their professions and to discuss them with each other. So again, I think that both John and I teach in a very organic and flexible way, which sometimes makes the students a little nervous.
Yes.
We're okay with it. Sometimes it makes our colleagues a little nervous too. But we teach that way because that's how healthcare is practiced. And so sometimes things change. So in the middle of a course, we might say, okay, next week then we're going to talk about ethics. Let's do that. That seems important and germane to what we want to talk about. We also taught the course intentionally off campus. We taught it at the Dell Children's Medical Center so that we were in a healthcare setting. It allowed the students to really be in the practice setting. It made it more convenient, certainly for the medical students who were on rotations there, and it also made it possible for us to bring in more guest speakers from the community because we were located in the community.
The other thing that Barbara and I focused on very deliberately too was not only to make this student-centered, but student team-centered. Right. Also. The first course and the first experience was creating those teams. The teams were created rather organically. It was based on students' interests, but also with the intent that the teams that were created not only experience the course together, but to work on a community health issue on an application project together too. The issues that came up from that work were actually very revealing and informative too. We've had teams that were very high functioning, that were very cohesive, and we also had teams that were struggling and came to us for help, came to our faculty for help. And do you recall what we did?
Well, I recall we probably turned it back on them,
That's right.
which is what we often do, and said, so what skills can we use?
Right.
If you want us, we're here. That's always a backup, but what
Yeah.
can you do? Who needs to talk to who? How do we need to orchestrate this? What would you do if you were in practice?
Yeah, and it was an important lesson for them, because in their future practice as healthcare team members, they had to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
They had to be accountable not just as individual team members, but the teams themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so we felt very importantly that they were the people who could solve or address those issues, and we would be there to facilitate and to help them. And I think it worked out really well.
Mm-hmm.
It really was empowering for the team members. Scary.
Yeah, but good skills for them to have when they're in practice. And we also intentionally had them work with community members. So the idea is that the final project, the team-based project, is not just something that we check off a list and say, good job, you did that, okay, but something that can actually create change. So if we want to be healthcare practitioners, if we want to transform healthcare, then we need to be in the community. So we asked each of them to partner with someone in the community who was involved in the area that they cared about, and talk with them about what could they do, what quality improvement, what research, what project could they work with them to help them in their practice. So we had students that have worked on pediatric palliative care projects. We've had students that have developed safety protocols for the hospital, patient handouts, and they work. And then at the end, their final course is a poster session where they display this in the community, and their community partners come in and see what they've done. So we really have that opportunity.
It was also important. That symposium was integral to our course. I think you and I did that deliberately.
Yeah.
We wanted the students to have not just a forum to share their work, but also have scholarship around their work too. And we felt that that was a very important element for them to understand, that as healthcare professionals, they not only had a responsibility to work in teams, but they had an obligation to look at a community health issue, to attempt to solve it, but also to look at opportunity to disseminate and to present their work.
I think I went into the class with a preconceived notion that I already worked on a healthcare team that was interprofessionally based. But when I got into the class, I really learned that there were a lot of things about the other professionals on the team that I didn't know about. So it really helped open my eyes to what other professionals do within the healthcare system. Also, one of the biggest things that came out of this for me was a continued collaboration with my team members. I'm still collaborating with them on a project, even though the course has been over for a few months now.
I think each profession brought their own piece into the group, and whether it was very novice-like or whether it was very experienced-like, I think that it was great to see the outcome of what we accomplished towards the end of the course. So that's the portion that I really enjoyed and learned from that.
Right, and it was very interactive, I think, more so than I thought it was going to be. And I really liked the way the teams were developed and how the team dynamics kind of played out.
One of the other things that I learned was you could bring out the voice of other professions, because when we first started, not everyone was really vocal about their notions or the thoughts in the activities we had throughout. But towards the end of the semester, everyone was able to speak out and bring their piece to everyone else and let us know what was going on.
I think the small teams within the classroom are part of what made the difference there, because we might have 25 students, but they're in 5 teams. So there's 5 people working together, and they're responsible for each other. And so team within classrooms seemed to really make a difference, because they would check in with that person, and they would make sure it wasn't like that person was just like off in the corner of the room on the computer. They were in a small group with their team while the class was going on.
The other thing that really was exciting for us was the use of the flipped classroom model, where we really wanted them to come prepared, to be engaged, to be active, and to be involved, but also to be thoughtful. And so one of the things that you and I talked about was, how do we build in time for them to reflect, to think about what they experienced too. And so I think the format came about from these types of discussions, where we would have those experiential activities, but we would wind down the class with debriefing and also with some time for individual reflection too. I think the other thing that you and I committed to along this opportunity was scholarship, that we would look at this as an opportunity to learn. How can we build these bridges? How can we improve the experiences for all of our disciplines too, and deliver really a very truly a transformative experience for our team, but not just for our students, but for our faculty too. And I think that we're very close to achieving that.
Yeah, we've been able to have a number of national presentations at both medicine and social work conferences and interprofessional conferences, and some publications that reflect what we've learned in the class so far.
Absolutely. And we've had a lot of fun doing this too.
Yes, we have.
The other thing this past semester, which I really enjoyed, was having our colleagues participate more actively too. Having our nurse faculty colleagues, our pharmacy faculty colleagues participate, and really enrich the experience for our students and brought together a different dimension of experience. And I think the other thing that I also felt very blessed to have was actually when we extended invitations to our guests, our community members, they eagerly participated.
They all said yes.
They all said yes. There was one opportunity around the ethics again, where we invited the hospital's ethics committee. They were so excited, they canceled their own ethics meeting and came to ours. And I think it spoke well, and it spoke to the importance and significance of the opportunity. And they've been doing this each and every time. They look forward to it now.
And the students then get an opportunity to meet leaders in the healthcare community. So they leave the course with contacts, information, understanding of both their role, other people's roles, and actual contacts in the community if they want to follow up and do some further work.
My recommendations for other students and faculty for the IPE course, Transformative Teams, would be that they should participate in this course. I think it would benefit not only novice students but expert students as well. And then those that are already in the actual real world scenario of hospitals and clinics, learning again how to come into a culture where every person's voice counts regardless of your profession is going to be ideal in taking care of these patients or their situations. I think those that are teaching or the faculty that teach, it would also benefit them, because now when they have these new students coming in, they can somehow incorporate IPE into any course that they're teaching somehow, just to kind of get things set in motion for students when they do graduate and go into the real healthcare scenario.
And we really treat them like the professionals or pre-professionals that they are. That's the other thing, is that we have the dynamic set up very much that you are professionals in the community. You're about to launch, and that's how we're treating you in this experience. We're colleagues, and you're our colleagues. So
I think we did that very deliberately. We flattened the power curve even among ourselves, where we would engage each other in that way to really role model this in front of the students too.
Yeah.
And for many of them, it was a first experience. They were used to a very different dynamic in a classroom. So it was even a challenge for them to adjust to an experience like this too, which I thought was very good and revealing. But I think toward the end, they were all involved.
yeah,
They got it.
yeah, they really did.
Well, the other thing I also appreciate, where I think you had made it very explicit to the students too, is they really needed to take time to teach each other. That they need to do that not just in the class itself, but to really take the time to teach each of their team members what is it like to walk in their shoes. We did that very deliberately and asked of them to do so, whether it was in the context of a field placement or a clinical placement, shadowing, or other venues. But we really wanted them to understand their team members and the role that they had and the contributions they had to the healthcare team. And I think that was very important for them too to understand. I think that was revealed in the post-course feedback. Many of them gained a great deal of appreciation of their peers in understanding, well, now I know what a social worker does, now I know what a psychologist does, now I know what a pharmacist does. And so those types of stereotypes and those types of misunderstandings, they all melt away. and go away.
And we've done a pretty elaborate evaluation, both with some standardized measures as well as some qualitative interviews pre and post. And it is very powerful to have these students say, I didn't realize that that's what a pharmacist did. And now I know when and how to call a pharmacist in practice. I know when I'm going to utilize that professional, how to work better. Maybe I'm on a team right now and I realize we don't have that profession on our team, and we really should, because I can see all the ways that they're going to work in tandem with me, and I can be more successful. And frankly, the patient and family can do better because I'm going to know how to work with my team, and I'm going to make it easier for patient, family, and healthcare. So I think it creates patient-centered care.
This course has taught me a lot, and I think that in the future I'll be able to use the content that I've learned in this course to help develop teams within the Army, which is who I work for. As I said before, I really had some preconceived notions coming into this, thinking that I knew what healthcare teams looked like and how they interacted. But after the course, I really realized that a lot of what I thought I knew, I didn't know about other professions. So I think in the future, I'll be able to use this information that I've learned to help develop teams within the healthcare profession.
Yes, I agree. The content that Shane mentioned, as well as the various activities that we were involved in throughout that semester-long course, I think are going to be great to take back as tools to my work facility, and where I'll be in a position where I'll be working with newer nurses and other healthcare professions, as well as those that have already kind of had some experience but maybe not have been exposed to IPE. So kind of focusing on the team concept, which is what IPE is pretty much all about, is something that the military has done for a while, but like you said, learning new things and learning about other professions and bringing it into one big scenario as like we did there, I think will be great of benefit.
We really wanted the same experience for the groups, whether it was large or small, to keep it as experiential as possible, to make sure that they had the opportunity to truly explore as peers. And we as faculty members are the facilitators. We're not the instructors.
And we tell them that. We are creating an experience. In fact, we're co-creating it with you, and we're your guides. And we have some material and we have some activities, but each class is different based on who's in it and how we create it together.
And each semester is different. The experiences are different. Even though we take pains to plan it, the outcomes are very different.
It's a lot,
and it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
very enjoyable.